Hi friends, this is your pal Scott Garibay, and today we're going to discuss Dungeons and Dragons in a Castle. Really fascinating. All right, so what is it? So, Dungeons and Dragons in a Castle is a thing. It happens in Lumley Castle in Britterland, in like Great Britain, UK. You know where the Queen lives, right? And then, oh, I guess the Queen is dead. I don't know who they have as monarch now. Ugh. Oh, that's bad. Wait, God. They say God save the Queen, like, and then I guess he stopped doing that. Oh, that's super sad. Wonder who. I wonder who leads over there now. Interesting. Sorry. Well, let me stay focused. All right. So, so basically, you have this situation with, and then they have a castle right here in America. So they run this in America and they run this in Europe. And this thing has been on rails for 6 years. 6 years. 6 years. Okay? Like, that's a lot. That is a lot. There are literally hundreds of games that have been run in these castles and thousands of players. Literally thousands of players at this point, right? Well, at least 1,000 player. Actually, I'm pretty, 6 years, yeah, there's been thousands. There's at minimum 2,000 people who have done this, right? So there are definitely 2,000 people who have been connected to this. Now, I want to talk this through. So what does this mean? So first of all, I'm trying to stress to you, and I'm trying to bring evidence, right? What I'm saying is that Dungeons and Dragons is not a game. It doesn't function as a game. It simply, there is no Candyland in a castle, right? Like, it's not a thing, right? Like, even like poker, they don't do, like, it's not a thing, right? So there's so much evidence that Dungeons and Dragons is far more than a game, right? Because there's lots of games and none of them get what D&D get. Dungeons and Dragons inspires passions in Dungeon Masters and Dragon Masters that simply does not match what you would see for any player on any other game in the world. It's not a game, right? And I believe that D&D in a castle, Dungeons and Dragons in a castle, is part of that, right? And this isn't just, oh, hey, generic fantasy in a castle. This is D&D, Dragon ampersand official D in a castle, right? This is my entire point, okay? I keep telling you, people are like, oh, hey, Pathfinder's the same as Dungeons & Dragons. It just came from Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo, right? I was horrified to hear, like, I'd heard people were using Dungeons & Dragons as therapy, right? That's not even old. They've been doing that for 3 or 4 years, right? But then I couldn't believe somebody said they were using Pathfinder for therapy. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? Like, that is like, let me back that up. Okay, let me re-say that. That is outrageously irresponsible, in my opinion, right? And the reason why is Pathfinder is a slapped together copy of Dungeons and Dragons. If you're going to use something as medicine, make sure you're putting in the right ingredients. Don't use, like, and this is my entire point, right? Like, don't use the store brand white label. Come on, right? Like, it's bad. In my humble opinion, it's just bad. It's bad, right? And the reason why is there's no Pathfinder in a castle, right? Like, that's not a thing. They may have played Pathfinder at some point, right? And my issue is, I'm just so sick to death of hearing the OSR and the indie creators saying our game's the same as D&D. No, not even remotely, right? You can put real weight on Dungeons and Dragons, and people have. Lego has, and Funko Pop has, and Paramount did, and Hollywood did, and the US government does, and, like, this is for real, right? Whereas the OSR and the indie, they don't even know. Like, they're, oh, we can do it too. What about you do it first, right? This is what gets so upsetting to me, is you get so many of these OSR and indie creators saying that their stuff is better than Dungeons and Dragons, but they never open new doors. And Dungeons and Dragons opens new doors every single year, like doing things that have never been done on the OSR or the indie side by anyone, right? In any given year, Dungeons & Dragons will create new heights, new mountain peaks for every OSR and indie to climb, and the OSRs and indies never do anything first. Never do anything, right? And please, I beg you to correct me. I beg you to point me to one thing that the OSR or indies have done first, rather than simply trying to reach equality. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this is the internet's filled with these ridiculous maw-flapping fools who say that their stuff is equal to Dungeons and Dragons, or better. And my point is, Dungeons and Dragons in a Castle is just another outrageously strong proof, right, that they're lying. There's nothing like Dungeons and Dragons in the world, and no OSR and no indie has ever replaced it. And the reality is, you can't do things with these other games that you could do with Dungeons and Dragons. You simply can't. Now, absolutely, now that Dungeons and Dragons is bushwhacked away, sure, Pathfinder, everybody else is going to walk the path, right? But Dungeons and Dragons is first. It bushwhacks. It cuts down the obstacles to this stuff. And then the OSR and indie come in, do the same thing, and pretend they're the same. It's not the same. If you're not bushwhacking, seal your flapping maw, right? No one has the right to say that any OSR or any indie is even remotely close to Dungeons and Dragons, because they accomplish nothing first, right? They don't do anything with their games that Dungeons and Dragons hasn't done a decade earlier, right? And this Dungeons and Dragons in a Castle is extremely important, right? And it's a new high that has been created by Dungeons and Dragons. Fascinating. D&D in a Castle is fascinating in my humble opinion. Every single word you heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.